Heart attack happens when there is a blood supply blockage, or there is obstruction to blood supply. Cardiac arrest happens when the heart stops. First, you check for scene safety, then you check for response. If there is no response, you need to call for help. So, per minute, you need to do 100 to 120 compressions. And when you do 100 to 120 compressions, the chest has to go one third and come out. The mouth to mouth has been taken off. We took it off during COVID because of the risk.
Yeah, because
and
of the risk.
Yes, and also there are a lot of evidence to suggest that chest compression are more effective uninterrupted than the mouth to mouth. Don't worry about the airway, just focus on hands only CPR. That is much more effective than getting worried about the airway. All you should think about is like, I'm going to save someone's life. I'm going to save someone's dad, someone's brother, someone's thing, and this is the only thing that's going to save him is my skill today.
Hello and welcome to the New Indian Express Online. I'm Bansi Kadapa. With me is Dr. Shalini Nalwad, who's an expert in CPR. What is CPR really, doctor?
Thank you so much for having me, Mr. Bansi, and it's a great pleasure to be with you all at the Indian Express headquarters. So, CPR stands for cardiopulmonary resuscitation. That means cardia means heart, pulmonary means lungs, and resuscitation is giving the life back to it or resuscitating it. So, when someone has a cardiac arrest, that means his heart is stopped. Along with heart, when heart stops, heart is your pump. And if the pump stops, the blood supply to all the organs stop. So to restart the heart, we start with cardiopulmonary resuscitation. So heart and lungs has to be restarted. Heart is for circulation, and lungs are for oxygen, So with both, we call it, the entire term is called CPR.
Okay. How do we know when someone needs CPR?
So the very first step about confirming if someone needs a CPR is to see if that person has any response. So we need to check for response, and there is a particular method of checking for the response. If the person collapses when he has a cardiac arrest, so no one can talk to you or stand or sit when they have a cardiac arrest. The minute the cardiac arrest happens, that means heart is stopped. That means the blood supply to brain is stopped as well. So that's a time when the person collapses, and once he collapsed, there will be multiple reasons why a person collapsed. You need to check if it's cardiac arrest by checking for his response, which we will demonstrate.
Okay. What are the first few things that you need to know about doing CPR on an adult?
Yeah. So the very, very important thing about a CPR is there are 4 very important steps. The very first step is make sure the scene you're approaching is safe. So, for example, when you're in a plane, they always tell you put the oxygen on yourself first, then you put on oxygen on the other person. So, same way, when you're trying to resuscitate someone, you need to make sure that you are safe to approach. So, the first and foremost step is scene safety. That means, is that person in a dangerous environment? Now it's a war situation. Is that guy in middle of somewhere or the gun shots are happening? Is that person somewhere in a bush where a snake could have attacked him? Or is that person suffering from some disease that you should not be putting your life at risk? So, or it could be in the middle of a road where he has collapsed and you run and the traffic is coming. So the first and foremost step is scene safety. Once you ensure that there is a scene is safe for you to approach, bring that person to the safer place if you think that's a more safer place. And the next step is we need to check for response. The way you check for response is holding his shoulder, tapping him hard and shake him and say, call out his name if you know his name, or just say sir or ma'am or something in Kannada if you say ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಾ ನಿಮಗೆ ಸರ್ ಮಾತಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಾ ಏನಾಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. So if they respond, that means they don't have a cardiac arrest. That means the blood supply to brain is there. That means his heart is not stopped. So if he doesn't respond, then you need to call for help, because once you start your chest compressions, CPR, it should be uninterrupted. So that means that when every time your hand becomes the pump, and that's the engine now which is pumping, and you should not stop it. That's what you do. First you check for scene safety, then you check for response. If there is no response, you need to call for help. Call for help, call your, so if someone around, if it's in this office, you just shout out, people will come. If you're in a public park, if there are people around, you shout. If it's in a bus stand, you can always shout, scream and say, shout,
do something to attract attention.
Get some help. And then if you are alone, then you take your mobile out. You'll be very unfortunate if you don't have even a mobile with you. That's the reason you shout out. And if nobody responds, or if you have a mobile, pull it out and call the emergency. Here we call 108. And if you are in a place where you do not know what number to call your friend and say, I'm in this spot, there's someone collapsed, I'm starting CPR, please send help.
Okay.
Then start the CPR.
Okay. How many chest compressions should we do per minute and how deep?
Yeah. So per minute, you need to do 100 to 120 compressions. And when you do 100 to 120 compressions, the chest has to go 1/3 and come out, or we say 5 centimeter depth. And you also have to allow the chest to recoil back. It's exactly like a pump. If you have a pump and you're pumping water, and if you do it halfway and it don't recoil, then pump doesn't work well. So you need to compress 100 to 120 times a minute, and then it has to go 1/3 or 5 centimeter depth. That's the reason why we teach CPR on mannequins, so people can understand the feel, how much they need to compress, and how fast they have to compress, how hard they have to compress, and how much time they need to give for the recoil to happen. So that's the essence of the depth.
Do we have to give mouth-to-mouth breaths, or is hands-only CPR just as good?
Yeah. So now, as is a universal rule, all the resuscitation guidelines, the mouth-to-mouth has been taken off. We took it off during COVID because of the risk.
Yeah, because
and
of the risk.
Yes, and also there are a lot of evidence to suggest that chest compression are more effective uninterrupted than the mouth to mouth, and mouth to mouth has absolutely gone out of our protocols. And please don't try to attempt, no matter how tempted you are, no matter how the other person is attractive.
Okay, that's a good one. How do you open airways properly doing CPR?
So here the focus is on hands only CPR. If you're pumping the blood because blood carries oxygen as well. So if you focus on that, it's perfect, because if there are two people, or if it's a hospital environment, the airway also becomes a priority. But if you are not in a hospital environment, we are doing for a community CPR for the general public. Don't worry about the airway, just focus on hands only CPR. That is much more effective than getting worried about the airway.
Okay. What is the easiest way to remember the order of steps: compression, airways, breathing?
So
because for first timers it's very confusing.
See, now compression, airway, breathing, all those circulation, these are all good for a medical and a paramedical people, where you're doing it in a hospital environment. And you have the appropriate adjuncts like ambu bag, mask, oxygen. All those are important. Here, when we are not even doing mouth to mouth, there is nothing you need to worry about the airway or breathing. All you have to focus is on the chest compressions, effective, uninterrupted chest compressions until the help arrives, or this patient wakes up, or you get so tired. That's the reason why you need to call for help before you start CPR. So you're so tired. I mean, you can see yourself after 2 or 3 cycles of CPR, people get tired. So it's very exhausting saving life. So you need to, these are only 3 scenarios where you can stop CPR.
Have you been there in that situation, trying to do CPR and totally exhausted?
Yes, I'm a critical care doctor, and when we do CPR in the hospital environment, after 2-3 cycles, we get tired. Yeah, we get out of breath, because it's quite an effort to do CPR. Then we get our colleagues swap over when we do, because then in a hospital environment, every 2 minutes we stop and check for the rhythm, and we use a AED as well. So, but when you're in a community, you'll not have that privilege of checking the rhythm. So what we suggest, just keep doing the CPR.
Okay, so my next question is, what is AED?
Yeah.
When do you use it?
So, heart, there are 2 terms which we need to understand very clearly for people. There are 2 terms which are very commonly used when it comes to heart. One is a heart attack, one is a cardiac arrest. Heart attack happens when there is a blood supply blockage, or there is obstruction to blood supply. Cardiac arrest happens when the heart stops. So in that scenario, AED is used when heart can also stop because of a heart attack. But heart doesn't stop. People get chest pain, they get breathlessness, and they get short of unable to do stuff. At that time, you need to take them to hospital. But if the heart stops, they will collapse. Heart can stop for multiple reasons. One of the major reasons also is because of the electrical abnormality in the heart. So when that electrical abnormality happens, we need to use a AED. So AED is called a automated external defibrillator. So this gives the heart electric shocks to get it back to the normal rhythm. So because if, for example, if heart is pumping like this, that means pump's happening. When the heart goes like this, there's no blood circulation or the pump happening. So to get it back to the regular rhythm, if there is electrical abnormality, you need to use a AED. And AED is almost a must in every cardiac arrest scenario if you have one. This is the reason why in airports we have AEDs, in hotels we have AEDs, we have railway station we have AEDs. AED should be there in every place, so that somebody can run. And that's another reason why you call for help. So people go fetch the AED and come, and then you can put a AED and start it.
Okay, how easy is it to use AED if you have never seen it before?
I call AED idiot-proof box. So that means even an idiot can use it. It is so simple, it's so straightforward. Every single instruction is given on that, and the AED talks to you like an AI, like what you need to do. It'll ask you to put the pads on, connect the pads, once you turn the machine on, then it says analyzing the rhythm, stop chest compression, we have to administer a shock, and then it says start CPR. So that becomes your instructor box. It will become a live instructor. So it's a very, very easy device to use, and everyone should know how to use it as well.
Also, there's one question. When you do CPR on a full-grown adult, it's very different from when you do CPR on a little child.
Yeah.
So what should you really take care of?
So, there are different ways of doing CPR when it comes to an infant, when it comes to a child, when it comes to an adult. It's only as per their, size of the adult. So, if you say it's an infant, we use 2 fingers to compress the chest. 2 fingers. And if it is an child, you can just use 1 hand to compress.
At the base of
it's a heel of your arm,
palm,
yeah. And if it's a full-blown adult, then you use both your arms.
Okay.
Yeah, but you need to just judge as you see, small babies 2 are enough, and it's a slightly bigger baby, we can use 2 thumbs to compress, keep it like this. First we start like this, then do this, then with 1 arm, and then both. So depending on the size.
What should you do if someone is choking instead of not breathing?
Yeah.
So let's say someone has taken an
Chicken.
large piece of chicken
or fish
meat
bone, or a child, the marble. So for an adult, if they have choked, there is something called as a universal choking sign. And this is entire universe. Wherever you see, if someone is choking, that's exactly how they present to you. So first they try to cough, and they can't cough, then the airway blocks partially or fully. They hold their both this hand on their neck, and they bend forward. That's the first sign that's the sign or universal sign of choking. When someone is choking like that, first thing what you can do is you can give a big blow on the back between the shoulder blades. You have to, in the middle of your back, just give a big blow. You try giving a big blow and try to encourage them, expels us. So you also encourage them to cough if they're able to cough, because coughing is a protective mechanism. It expels when they cough. So you try to ask them, try to cough. If they can't cough, they'll be still choking, then blow, and then if they don't do, then the next thing is we do a maneuver called Heimlich maneuver. So that is if you feel your chest, you get a soft part. Just below that, you fold your both your palms and put it here, and below your sternum we call it, and then pull it inside forcefully and backwards and upwards. Exactly like this. We can do a demonstration later on and show how it is done. And when you forcefully pull it back, it expels out. And you try it as many times. And if that person is not expelling, never try to, if you see something, if it's a child, if you can see in the oral cavity a foreign body, you swipe it out. But if you can't see anything, never put your finger, because you're going to push it down further. So never put a foreign body, never try to pull it out if you can't see it. That's the thumb rule. If you see it, you try to take it out. If you can't take it out, don't worry about it. Just follow these procedures. And after this, that person is not able to expel it out, his airway is blocked, oxygen compromised, he'll have a cardiac arrest. If he has a cardiac arrest, you're going to do exactly the same thing. And if you're alone, like for example, I might be sitting watching TV, I throw a peanut, it goes to a wrong. What do you do? Like first thing you need to do is to run out of the house to get attention, because if you are inside an isolated thing, invariably you're going to collapse, because you will not be able to, if you can't expel it out, the airway is going to obstruct, oxygen supply stops, heart will stop. So what the first thing you need to do if you're alone, if you choke, you just have to run out to wherever the people are before you get so breathless that you can't even run. So that is another thing we need to do. Or the other thing is, like, you can go, once you come out in the public, if no one has yet, like, there, and like you called for help, you can just go and bang yourself to the back forcefully or to a chair and see if you can hit it back yourself and it can expel out. Yeah.
So a hit on the back
Yeah.
is recommended.
Yeah. And that first, and then the Heimlich maneuver. That's important.
Okay. What is the easiest way to remember the order of steps? Compression, airways, breathing, when you actually do CPR.
So there are 4 important steps
Yeah.
when you perform a CPR or be a CPR provider. So the first thing when you see someone collapsed is to make sure the scene is safe to approach. So you check for the scene safety, make sure the patient is not in a dangerous place, like there's no fire close by, he's not right in the middle of a traffic. If he's right in the middle of traffic, just take him to the side where it is safe. And then the second step is, after scene safety, the second step is to check for response. There's a particular way you need to check for response, not by hitting, punching or scratching. You need to put both your arms on the, both your palms on the shoulder and shake him and call his name out if you know his name. If you do not know his name, just say sir or ma'am and just shake them hard on their shoulders.
Can you shake him hard on his shoulders?
Yeah. Just show it, yeah.
Shake him hard?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the way.
Okay?
Shake him really hard and call out his name as loud as you can. And if there is no response, if his response, you don't need to do CPR. If there is no response, the third very important step is call for help. Okay. Call for help in your colleagues, neighbors, friends, family, or on the phone 108 ambulance, or you can just call, if you do not know the local ambulance number, just call your friends and say, I'm here in this particular park, there's someone collapsed, please get help. And if it is inside an airport, you can call for help where someone can fetch your AED as well. So the third important step
This is an AED.
Yeah, that's an AED. Third important step is call for help. The fourth step is start CPR. To start CPR, you need to do it in the middle of the chest.
Okay.
So if you see your heart is in the middle, it's not on the left side. It is just slightly tilted to the left, that's it. So the CPR is done right in the middle, and we need to first get into a position.
Yeah. The
Straight.
base of the palm.
Yes. Lock both your palms and bend forward, keeping your elbow straight, which Anant will do now. Keep your arm straight, lock your palm, bend forward, and then put it in the middle of the chest. And if it's the hardest part of the chest, and then you start compressions.
Okay.
Compress.
Can you now start CPR?
Yeah, start CPR 100 times a minute, 100 to 100 times. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. That's enough. So we need to do 100 to 120 times a minute. That is fast and really hard. You need to go.
That's very exhausting.
It is exhausting. This is the reason why you call for help. There's someone who will come and take care of the CPR, or the doctor or a paramedic. Someone responds and a professional will come and take over. So you keep compressing the chest until the person wakes up, or you get help, or you're exhausted. So that's the only 3 times you can stop the CPR. Uninterrupted chest compression is the most important thing when you do a CPR. That's the reason why, again, the call for help is an important bit.
Okay. Now, how do you use an AED?
Okay, AED is a very, very simple device, and if you AED comes with 2 parts. Like one is a box, the other one is a pad, which has got a wire running into the machine. Sometimes it will be like, it will be disconnected, it will be in the box, so you need to connect it. First thing you need to do is turn on the green button. Okay? Because it says here, type. So this is step 1. Then you need to put the pads on. And again, it is self-explanatory where you're going to put the pads on. So you can put the pads on.
Stay clear of patient.
So it says exactly where you put the
Deliver
pad.
shock now. Press the orange button now.
So, and once you turn the machine on, pads are connected.
Analyzing heart rhythm.
It is analyzing the heart rhythm.
Do not touch the patient.
Ask you to stop CPR and stay away because your rhythm can get missed with that.
Shock advised.
It says now the shock is advised. It is charging and
Stay clear
it will
of
make sure
patient.
all of you stay clear. Because if you touch the patient when the
Deliver
shock is
shock
delivered,
now. Press
you
the
also
orange
get electric
button
shock.
now.
So it says make sure everyone's clear. Then it says deliver the shock. When it says deliver the shock,
Shock
press
delivered.
that button, shock is delivered.
Oh.
So immediately you start the
Start
CPR.
CPR.
So it will become a self-explanatory. So once you start put an AED, every 2 minutes you have to stop and it will analyze the rhythm. The same step is followed. If it says shock, you shock. If it says no shock, just continue the CPR. You continue the CPR. It's as simple as that.
Can you do CPR on someone who might have a neck or a back injury?
Yeah, CPR. It is for your heart has stopped is when you do CPR. Neck and back injury comes later. If you do not save that person, what are you going to do with their neck and back? The first important step is to save their life. The saving their life is only through CPR.
How long can you go on doing CPR until help arrives?
You have to do as long as it takes until the help arrives or the person wakes up. So in a community, there is no limit how long you need to do, how long you should do. But in the hospital environment, we have certain rules to follow depending on their comorbidities, like other medical conditions, and it's a child. Why did they have? Is to have a reversible cause. Hospital, it's different. But in the community, if someone has collapsed, just keep doing CPR until the help arrives.
Usually people try CPR, let's say, in an emergency. But what are the common mistakes one needs to watch out for?
If we follow the steps, scene safety, check for response, call for help, and start CPR, there's nothing you really need to watch out. And there is no contraindication for a CPR. The worst thing you can do while doing a CPR is to break couple of ribs. But no one will die of a rib fracture. If you do not do CPR, that person might
Will
die.
surely die.
Yeah, and there's someone might have been drunk. He just has deep sleep. It doesn't wake up, and you try to do CPR, it'll kick you. But at least you confirm that his brain is working, his heart is working. So there is no harm in doing CPR on anyone in this world. If you're a big bloke doing CPR on a little granny, might break a few
you
ribs.
might break a
No
rib.
harm, but at least you saved her life. Ribs will heal by itself. There is no contraindication. You can do CPR on anyone.
Okay. As someone who's done hundreds, if not thousands of CPRs, what is your tip to someone who's doing CPR for the first time?
So we have done 55,000.
55,000.
Yeah,
already.
probably more than that.
Okay.
So the tip for someone CPR, like I'll tell you one example. We had a bunch of couple of students who had come to do internship with us from the US. So they did internship. So whoever comes to our company, iCat Air Ambulance Services, to do internship, we always train them in CPR because we take that opportunity. Someone has walked into the office, we say you done an internship, we also learn CPR and go because it will come handy at some point of time. So these two brothers who had come from the US, and we trained them in CPR before they left. They went home, they went on a camp into forest. So including their instructor and the guide who was with them in the forest trekking, at least out of 40 of them, 30 were trained in CPR. So there was this kid who collapsed there and no one responded. Only these two kids responded and did the actual CPR.
They were there at the right time.
No, it's not that. It's a fear of others. The biggest killer in a CPR is a fear of doing something. I mean, you freeze, and when someone has a collapse, then you just freeze and stand there. Instead of that, because this is why it's so important to get the hands-on CPR. When you learn the CPR, do it hands-on. Although there were 40 Americans who were all very well trained in CPR, these two boys responded because they had the hands-on experience. They had no fear because they had just been trained, and everything was fresh on their mind, and they did it on a mannequin. So they rushed, did a CPR and saved the child. So it's very important to not to be afraid. First of all, the fear should be taken off, because how are you going to harm that person? All you're going to do is like, you, at least that you're giving a person to survive. There is 50 to 60% chance of survival if you do an effective CPR.
Yeah.
So that's a huge number. That's a huge
yeah,
number.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now, what do you tell a person who is very anxious or nervous in a situation? You just spoke about
Yeah.
a freeze,
Yeah.
which is a very real thing.
Yeah.
What does the person do to overcome it and still go ahead and do CPR?
First and foremost, need to have practice, because that gives you a good experience of what CPR is. Second thing is like, all you should think about is like, I'm going to save someone's life. I'm going to save someone's dad, someone's brother, someone's thing, and this is the only thing that's going to save him is my skill today. So that if you have that in your mind, and the day you learn CPR, you always think about it. Like, I tell people when we do this mass training, like we are trained Bangalore police, 2,500 of them at once, like, Kantirava Stadium, and including our Honorable Health Minister and at that time Bangalore Commissioner Dayananji, they all of them took training and the certificates on that day. I mean, they found it the most amazing training program because we're doing it hands-on. So may always tell these people, look, when you wake up, first thing what you do, remember God. Most of us, we will like, you do some
we
kind
make
of
a
a
small
namaskara, prayer, or you look at a photo, something like as Indians, or whatever it is, you think about, like, when you wake up, you like to have a positive thought. The similar way, when you wake up every day morning, once you're a CPR trained person, you have it in your mind, I'm going to revise these 4 small steps. Like, what I was telling you, scene safety, check for response, call for help, start CPR. These 4 steps, you have it on your fridge written and stick, like, or you every morning you wake up and revise it, because this certificate is valid for 2 years. And if you not done it for 6 months, you would have forgotten the steps as well. And so if you kind of, along with your morning prayer, just once take 30 seconds out to run through your mind, you'll never forget it, and it will come to use, we don't know. And Abdul Kalam ji says, like, if you save one life in your entire time, it is like saving your world, because for that person who's dead, it's his world, like, his family is the world who they lost.
Absolutely. My last question to you.
Yeah.
What are the myths about CPR? For example, people believe that someone needs to be really muscular to do CPR.
No, we train everyone above 11 years, because 11 years and below, the children, they are like not strong enough to do a proper chest compression. Again, no harm if they can do it, but we as a, we just take 11 year and above, and there is no age limit to who can do a CPR. Everyone who can walk and talk and stand can do a CPR, as long as they don't have 2 arms, they can do a CPR. Because when we do CPR, it's not the strength of your arm or muscle, it is the entire back that is giving the strength. So that is a pressure what you're going to put on that to get the exact chest compression in. So it's very important, like, to do CPR than not do CPR. Even if you think you feel very weak and it's a big guy who has collapsed, or a big guy doing a small CPR, just attempt CPR. You'll never kill anyone, but if you don't do a CPR, you'll definitely kill. Yeah. Not kill, he will die. Yeah.
So there it is. Dr. Shalini Nalwad, someone whose hands have actually done CPR 55,000 times. Now for 55,000 CPR, she must have practiced another 50,000 times on mannequins like this. Thank you, doctor.
Thank you.
Hope this message, hope this interview will save some lives somewhere. With camera person Vinod, this is Bansi for the New Indian Express Online.